Hi everybody, finally getting to tutorial for casting on and using DPNs to make the second sock for the Briggs & Little heavy socks, and I am doing it with the stripes. You can see my two colors. This is the first sock that I did, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to get my DPNs and I'm going to get my main color, and we are going to cast on 54 stitches using long tail cast on. So I'm just going to figure out approximately. What I do is I take and I measure this up to my shoulder, then I take and I measure to my forearm here. That'll give me approximately stitches, and that little technique is courtesy of Kate, the Crazy Sock Lady. Okay, so I'm going to make my slip knot, and let's zoom in a little closer here. There we go. Okay, I'm using 3 needles for socks, and then I have 1 needle that'll be my working needle. So I'm going to take my first needle, and if you take and you divide, it's 18 stitches per needle. So I would cast on 18 stitches. 1, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, so there's my first needle, 18 stitches. So I'm going to pick up my second needle and I'm going to put 18 stitches on that one. So when I go to cast on, I just kind of hold this one here till I get my first stitch on, and then I'm gonna snug it tight. Okay, like that. And then you can just let the other one hang there. So I'm gonna cast on 18 stitches. That's 1, oops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Alright, there is my second set of 18, and the last one, my third needle right here, same thing. I'm going to, and if you are unfamiliar with long tail cast on, I do have a tutorial in the knitting playlist. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, oops, 17, and 18. Okay, so there's my 54 stitches. Now, and you can see how pretty close by measuring. I don't have a real long tail, but enough that I can sew in to close off. You know how you sometimes get that loose stitch when you're doing your cast on and joining in the round? But I always like to put, I'll just take this and I will put a knot in just to keep it from getting too loose. So then I'm going to turn my needles over like this. Go out a little bit here so you can see it. If I can find my, here we go. Okay. This is going to be my working needle. Okay, so when you do this, you have to make sure that you don't have any of your stitches twisted. So what I do is make sure all your purl bumps, or what looks like your purl bumps, is on the inside, so that way I don't get my stitches twisted. Okay, so all this is to the inside. How you hold your needles, it's personal preference. Okay, and you have to find out what's comfortable for you. So then I'm going to take, zoom back in here, I'm going to take my working yarn. I put it in my right hand because I knit English. I can continental, but I prefer English. So I'm going to take, here's my working yarn to the back on this is needle 3. This is needle 2, this is needle 1. So I'm going to I'm going to join in the round, so I'm going to just put this into my first stitch, like that, okay? And then I'm going to take my working yarn, and I'm just going to knit that stitch. Trying to hold this in here, and okay, let's get this around here. I'm going to knit that stitch, okay? Here we go. Where are we at? There we are. And I'm going to slide it off my needle, and I'm going to give it a tug. Okay? Try to prevent the ladders. That's one of the things with DPNs you get is ladders. So then we're going to proceed to do a knit 1, what is it? It's a knit 2, purl 1 ribbing. So there's not knit 1, knit 2. I don't know why my camera just blurred. How about if we just go out a little bit? Okay. Knit 2. Bring my yarn to the front. Purl 1. Okay. Yarn to the back. I'm going to knit 2. Purl 1. Knit 2. Purl 1. And do that all the way to the end, first needle, and I'll show you how I switch to the second needle. 2. Purl 1. Knit 2. Purl 1. And then knit 2. Purl 1, and that finishes needle 1. Okay. So then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my next needle, turn my work clockwise, and I finish with a purl 1. So then I'll start with the knit 2. Purl 1. And you'll continue to do this until you come around to where you started. An easy way to remember where your beginning of round starts is where your tail is. If you want to put a marker there, that's fine too. But you can continue doing this knit 2, purl 1 for 6 rounds. And this is part 1. Part 2 will be me showing you how I change colors. I change to my contrast color here. Okay, let's see if we go here. Okay, changed my contrast color. Because what it is, and you can see with the knit 2, purl 1, and I need to, I know another method that gives you a seamless jog. I didn't use it in this sock here, but these are my brother-in-law's work socks. But I will knit 6 rounds of knit 2 purl 1 here, then I will change to my contrast color, which will be in the next video, how we change color. Then you do 6 more rounds, then you do 6 rounds in your second stripe, and you're done with the blue. And then we'll continue on. There will be a part on the heel, okay, how we do the heel flap gusset, and turn, and then turn the heel, which gets you down here, and then the foot, and then finally the toe. So this is going to be a multi-part video, so none of them are going to be too long. But this is just how I use DPNs. So if you're intimidated by DPNs, don't be. There's times I like my DPNs, even when I'm using my 9-inch circulars, or my Addy Trio, or Hiya Flyers. I still use DPNs for my heels. I find it makes a better tension on my heels instead of stretching using like my 9-inch circs. So I will use 2 DPNs to do the heel when I'm using 9-inch circulars. 9-inch circulars is my preferred way to make socks, but when I'm working with this Briggs & Little rustic wool, I do prefer my DPNs. I'm using size, what size DPNs am I using here? 3.25. Most of the time I'm knitting my socks with my bougie yarn, or my merino nylon yarn, with anywhere from 2.25 to 2.75. Most of the time it's 2.25 or 2.5. It just depends. Some sock patterns have like a cable pattern, which uses more yarn and which changes my tension. But for the Briggs & Little and DK socks, I usually use DPNs. So they're not hard to do, and like I said, for a long time I was afraid. I was intimidated, not afraid, but intimidated by DPNs. And what it does is you develop muscle memory when using these. Okay, so you do get comfortable. Now I am using the Knit Pro Zings. Those are my favorite DPNs. I do have some Prim DPNs that I use for my Arnie Carlos Advent balls that I ripped out and need to start again. But it's all personal choice. I dropped a stitch. And it's all personal choice. Like I said, I like these. I had a friend of mine use them. She didn't think they were long enough. Now these aren't as long as like your 8-inch DPNs. I find these are comfortable. I also have, I'll show you in a second. Let me finish this one needle 2 here. I don't like to stop in the middle of when I'm doing something. And then knit 2. Purl 1. Okay. And I noticed while I was doing this here, I just happened to notice I want you to see something. And this, I have 2 stitches that come off my needle. That's because I wasn't paying attention. I was talking, and I just slip those back on my needle. There, they're back on my needle. So basically, what you have, it looks like a triangle, but it turns into this. So I want to show you. I also have these. I use these are by Knit Picks, and this is a double point knit, but they're 4-inch, and I like these for socks and also small compresses. I've used these for mitts and baby booties and stuff like that. And these are 4-inch. These are really nice needles, really nice to work with. I had the 6-inch set, but I sold those. You get 6 needles. Okay. So literally, I could cast on a pair of socks onto the 3 needles, and then have the 6. Nope, I don't have enough. Sometimes a lot of times you'll use 4 DPNs, and you'll have your 2 extra here just in case you lose one. I do 3 DPNs usually for these socks here, and unless the pattern calls for 3. I have in the past gone 4 needles when the pattern called for 3. But then I just have to reconfigure my stitches on the needle, so especially if it's a patterned, a pattern like a cable or a lace pattern within the sock pattern itself, just so I get the stitch counts right. But that is casting on with DPNs and doing a knit 2 purl 1 ribbing. So this is part 1 of socks on DPNs. I'll see you when I get to the next video. Will be where we do the color change. I hope this alleviates any doubts that you have about trying DPNs. Try them. You might like them. Some people do. And I will see you in the next part 2 of color change. So I hope wherever you're at, you're staying safe, you're healthy, you're happy, doing what it is that makes you happy. And remember, hug, smiles, and happiness. Pass it on. Make the world a better place each and every day. Be the light in somebody's dark day. Bye for now from Deer Island, and I'll see you in the live Sunday, next tutorial, next video.